Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Kelleybrew. I am one of the hosts for the Access Rumor Time Conversations podcast. It's been a while since we've all been together, and there have been a lot of changes that have happened since we last met with you all. And so this evening, I am happy to say that we are back together. And this evening, we also have some guests with us. And so we're very excited about that. But before we start, I would like for each of our guests to introduce themselves before we begin our conversation this evening. So I would like to start by having Georges, please introduce yourself, and then Geneva, if you'd introduce yourself, and then we'll have Yvonne introduce herself, and then Yvonne, you can then have the guests introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be with you for season 2 of our podcast. I'm excited to join in this effort to continue to help us become one as a family. My name is Georges W. Prosper. I'm a social worker, and currently I serve as a school social worker in South Bend.
Greetings, everyone. Like Georges, I too am so happy that we're back on schedule and doing this video style. And I just want to say welcome to all of our guests today. I am Geneva Fleming, bringing you greetings from South Carolina. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and professional in higher education and minister. So I look forward to sharing this conversation with you this evening.
It is so good to be back in season 2. It's a new season. It's a new thing. We're here to just keep it live and keep it flowing. I am Dr. Laria, and I am a co-host on the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast. And as it says, conversation, because that's what we're having. We're going to be having a conversation. And I would love to introduce our guest, who we're grateful that you took the time to come and share with us and our viewing on listening audience. And so I'm going to start with, Joan Alleyne. I sometimes call her Karen. So if you hear me saying Karen, I'm talking about Joan. So Joan, could you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joan Alleyne. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am an early childhood educator. Been doing it for the past 11 years, really enjoy it. Learning a lot in the virtual world, but this is just time to show that I can conquer this along with my parents and my children.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you. Next, we have Gigi Burgos.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gigi Burgos. I am in Orlando, Florida, and I'm here as a parent of 2 middle schoolers, a 6th grader and a 7th grader. Glad to join you guys.
Thank you for being here, Gigi. All right, then we have Wallace.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wallace Harrell. I'm here as a father of a 15-year-old daughter. And I'm just happy to be here to have this conversation.
Good to have you, Wallace. Then we have Pamela Dempsey.
Thank you for having me. My name is Pamela Dempsey. I am a human services student. I'm also a parent to 3 grown children, 21, 22, and 26. And then I have an 11-year-old stepdaughter who's currently in 6th grade. And I'm coming from South Carolina.
All right, good to have you. Good to have you. We have a very diverse group this evening. And then we have Abby J. Abby J.
Good evening. Of course, I am Abby J, and I am in South Carolina. I'm in Charleston, and I am here as a parent. I'm also a trauma advocate. So as well as a minister. So it has been a fun time. So I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you. We have
Welcome, everyone.
we have 3 ministers on the show,
and 2 of them specializing in trauma.
Trauma
care. So George's and Evie J. So wonderful. And many with middle school age children. So we have at least 3 parents with the 6th grader. That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, Vanessa.
All right. Again, thank you all for joining us this evening. Our topic for this evening is this new way that we are doing school in this era of COVID. And so our overarching theme for this quarter is about relationships. And so how are we in relationship to different things that are impacting our lives? So again, for this evening, for you all who are teachers and parents, trauma care workers, how are you in relationship, first of all, like with yourselves during this time? And also, how are you in relationship with your families? Because this is a very trying time for everybody. And then again, for those of you who are teachers, how are you in relationship to your students during this time, right? And then for those of you who are parents, how are you in relationship with your children and with the teachers? Because again, the way we are doing school now, it's not just the kids who are sitting in front of teachers, but sometimes it's also the parents who are sitting in front of the teachers, and just how this whole like communication piece is playing out. And so let's just dive right in. So I'll ask you, Joan, well, no, before we even do that, why don't we start with the parents, right? So you all had to make some very difficult decisions when it came to your children and whether or not they go to school and how they're doing it virtually. So how difficult of a decision was that for you all? So Gigi, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you. It was a very hard decision. It was heart-wrenching. Here, our governor really pushing the face-to-face for Florida. But at the time, a couple months ago in August, we were turning into the epicenter from New York. We were taking over because the numbers kept rising and rising. I'm fortunate that well, there was in Orlando, but like the bigger part was South Florida, and I live in Central Florida. So that was a little bit of like, okay, but the girls have been locked up for so long. You know, these are teenage girls that need to see their friends, be out with their friends. And like I had mentioned, it's like we went out for spring break and never went back. It's like the spring break from hell. It never ended. It just kept on going. And here we are, school was starting, and in Florida, they were trying to push the face-to-face, and it was difficult. And Orange County Public Schools decided, I know that some places they have hybrids, but we don't have that. Hybrid meaning that you go a couple of days to school and then a couple of days in computer. What Orange County gave was either face-to-face or you do it at home live. We call that launch ed, which is where you follow, I believe a lot of people call that virtual, but that's our option too. It's called launch ed, like launch education. And that's the one that the teacher is live and you go through your schedule just like if you were at the face-to-face. And then the third option is what we call virtual, Florida Virtual School. And that you can do at your own time. You do not have a teacher in front of you. That's more you and your parent type of thing. So those were the 3 choices that here in Orlando, Orange County Public Schools gave. And of course, my girls, you know, they were dying to go back and see their friends. And And it was, you hear all this stuff from the TV, all the stuff from the media, all the stuff from social media and Facebook. And then you have your friends and your family. My mom, I don't know if you know her, who's very opinionated. And, she's very much involved with her grandchildren, and which I'm thankful for, but it's also someone else like in your ear, you know what I mean? And so after thinking and just weighing it all out, my husband Joey and I decided, okay, we'll let them go back to school with the face-to-face module. It's called the face-to-face, until people, you know, start getting sick or whatever. Well, I made that decision, and not everybody was supportive. You're talking about relationships. You know, I had you know, people were like, are you crazy? You know, you're such a devoted mother, and you're involved in everything your kids do. What are you doing? Turning them back. You know, and then I had the school, yes, thank you, because I'm vice president of the PTA. So yes, I'm glad your kids are coming in. I mean, it was just every which way. And then it all lasted 4 days, because in the afternoon of day 4, meaning that Thursday, we get the phone call from the principal saying that a 7th grade teacher had tested positive. So that same afternoon, day 4, I, you know, withdrew my children from the face-to-face module and put them in what we call the launch ed, which is like what you guys call virtual, which is they have the teacher online. But it was very difficult, and really, as a parent, it's with everybody. You know, your kids were upset, your friends. It was a very trying time. I think everybody's a little bit more at peace with it all. We finished the market period tomorrow, so it's been 9 weeks now. You know, the first quarter. And so it's a little bit more at peace now. I think the girls have gotten it. This is what you're doing till January. But I'm sure we'll be going through this again in January, because
but it may not be as wrenching. It will still be as, you know, difficult, but not as difficult. So thank you, Gigi.
Yeah.
What about Pam and Wallace and Abby?
For us, the going back to school part was, the choice was more based around my stepdaughter. She has some behavioral issues, so and she's in a specialized classroom. So we were trying to figure out if she would be able to keep the mask on all day long, or would her sensory issues prevent that from her? Would she be able to learn without being in a full classroom? We ended up deciding to keep her home and do the virtual learning. Here they call it blended. It's where it's live, so like the launch ed. So she would get on the computer at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she would have her homeroom and her first class together. And then as soon as that class was over, she'd log out of that classroom on Google Classroom and go right into the next one. And then she would break for lunch 2.5 hours after she started school. And then she would have time with her behavioral management teachers. And then she would go back into her last 2 classes, which were, again, back to back. And by the time school was over at 3 o'clock, she was exhausted. She was uncomfortable. She was not adhering to the schoolwork at all. She would leave in the middle of her class to go and focus on something else, focus on herself, because she couldn't handle the schoolwork. So I ended up being the student, you know, and that's because you don't want her to miss out on the class, but, you know, at the same time, somebody's got to pay attention. So we made a decision after about 3 weeks with her behavioral teachers to send her back to physical school. And she is doing better. She still has the virtual learning, so she's in a specialized classroom, and she's still taking the classes via computer because they didn't want to interrupt the teacher's schedule or her schedule. But she has her time to refocus. She's not missing the classwork. She gets to interact with a couple of students, which she needed. She needs a lot more than me and her dad. especially since it's been me and her dad since March. So, you know, you're an 11-year-old child in a house with adults. You need someone your age to basically be around and to socialize with.
So for you, it was, would you say it was less heart-wrenching because you saw that her staying home was actually the heart-wrenching piece?
Her education, her learning capabilities, and her mental health for us were more important than, I guess that's saying it wrong. In the moment, her learning capabilities, her education, and her mental health needed her to be in school physically. Okay. It was a scary transition. There were some waivers sent home that I thought I would never in my lifetime have to sign, you know, but right now, the past couple of weeks, she has been a completely different child. She seems to liven up more. She's got a little bit more spunk in her step. She's, you know, more outgoing now. She can tell me that, you know, what she ate for lunch as opposed to not wanting to eat. So there's a lot of things that we don't realize. Sometimes kids shut down and we have to focus on them. And that's, for her, that's what she needed. I'm not saying it's the right decision for every child out there, but for her, that's what she needed.
Yeah, and for her, it sounds like because the fact that she's back into what's familiar for her during this time, during the daytime, this is what she normally does. That may be a contributing factor to why she is doing better as well.
Yes, she is very much.
I had another question, and Vanessa, you might jot this down.
Geneva, hold on. Vanessa gave us a 30-second. About a minute ago.
You know, this conversation is getting good, right, already. And so we're already learning about some of the challenges that the parents are having during this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break. We're going to have a short commercial break. And when we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
Welcome back to the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So when we left off, Pamela was letting us know what it has been, her experience has been having a daughter who is special needs and needing to have like breaks, and the fact that it is impacting her and her husband as parents because they now are like sitting in front of the teacher trying to get the information that their daughter needs in order to keep her learning so that she's not falling behind. And so, Wallace, can you tell us from a father's perspective, what has it been like for you?
It's been different. It's a new avenue that we're going down. And when we was in Florida, when it first came out, my daughter, she played volleyball. And she had volleyball practice after school. And when everything shut down, and me and my wife chose to have her e-learn, it was a little pressure. That's all I can say. It was a little pressure. It was different. But we had to work. My wife and I, we worked in hospitals. So we had to leave our daughter home. And me, about protection, make sure the door's closed, keep it locked. Don't, you know, you have that worry also in your head about your child is home by themselves. I mean, she's 15, she's a teenager, but you still want to have that covering, in the back of your head. You're at work, you're trying to focus. You just want to make sure everything is okay. But thank God everything was okay. And then we moved here to South Bend, and she's still e-learning again. But I used to see in her face, I can read her face when she used to talk, what she used to miss. And I try to teach my daughter with our relationship that you can talk to me about anything. I don't care what it is, we'll talk about anything. And I just try to look at her and see how she felt. And she felt lonely because she couldn't go and hug, because when we are at a volleyball game, at the volleyball practices, I'm taking pictures and videos, she always hugging her friends, they always talking and dapping, they, and I could see her hurt, her pain. So we felt that also, especially I did, so it's just something you got to keep your head up and stay positive. And eventually we got a little more closer because I had to talk to her, talk. And she kind of like me. She don't like to tell people how she feel. And I understand that. But I broke the barrier, kept hitting her, talking to her, and we even got closer now. And like I say, when we move here, it's the same way, but she don't have no friends here.
Yes.
So she's really not missing, her friends that she saw every day. They'll sometimes get together, my wife or another parent, to drop them off at the mall, and they hang out together. So I know she's missing, and her pain, I felt it. And, but like I say, we still have to, keep going, keep your head up and keep moving.
Thank you. All right, Abby, from a father's perspective, thank you, Wallace, for letting us in to what the men are feeling.
Exactly. I'm gonna try to hit both really briefly. From a parent's perspective, this couldn't have came at a worse time. I have an 11-year-old who just started middle school. We switched schools. She's been in private school her entire life. I pulled her from private school just due to some personal things that I thought that were lacking, especially with cultural, our climate right now. So there's lots of things that she just did not understand, and that was attributed to her environment. So you can't blame her for not knowing what you don't know. So I pulled her from private school and I put her in a completely different school with completely different people. She's in military school at that, and then we do this in a pandemic. Y'all, I cried lots of nights because of things that you just could not explain. So due to just some of her personal issues, she has epilepsy. So when she gets sick, she gets sick. So I had to keep her home. So I didn't have a whole lot of battling back and forth with that because she's kind of like, well, I don't know anyone anyway. However, she does robotics and she does coding, and she was heavy in sports. So she played basketball, she played soccer, she did football. So she's a very active kid, and now all of that is taken away. So I think another parent said that we left for spring break, and then she's been, as she called it, imprisoned ever since then. So it has been quite interesting. From an instructor's point of view, I did have the luxury for my job to be able to work from home. However, I'm used to working from home in silence, not trying to be the principal. I'm the chef, I'm the janitor. I have my sister's 3 children as well because she works in nursing. So now I have like this mini village behind me. I'm in my office, but I have like this mini village if I'm out and about, and I'm trying to conduct seminars and sessions, and I'm trying to get work done. And then I gotta, Auntie, I need help going on in the background. And instantly I'm frustrated because I'm used to working from home by myself. So I'm trying to problem solve. And then I work with adults in college level. And at one point, I had two of my college students on psych evals. So I'm trying to be present. I'm trying to answer questions. I'm trying to talk to parents. I'm trying to text them or facilities. And then I have little people behind me going, I'm hungry. I want a snack. So this has been interesting. I am zoomed out. If I never have another Zoom meeting, hear me, hear my heart. It will not be too soon. We got cute one day because I got complaining about having Zoom fatigue. It is a real thing. So we did Microsoft Teams. It's the same thing. I'm over it. I am over Zoom meetings. I am over Zoom conferences. I am over Zoom prayer sessions. I am over Zoom it all. I'm zoomed out. But that is where we are, and trying to find some sort of balance and self-care and making sure that my mental fortitude is as structurally sound as possible most days. That's all I'm promising at this point, is most days we're hoping to be good. Has been quite challenging because, again, I'm quarantined. There's only so much we can do, and everybody needs something. And then a lot of my outlets have been removed because I can't do a whole lot with children. So that has been quite the adjustment, is just trying to find some sort of way and time for personal self-care and making sure that I'm good for my daughter and my nieces and my nephews, as well as clients and work and things.
You know, Abby, you are speaking.
Thanks for making me laugh, for sharing a very serious matter, for causing me to lighten up on a very serious matter, because it is a very serious and painful matter. Yeah, but I appreciate the opportunity to chuckle. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Right. What I was going to say is that you have just described the experience for so many parents that is also going through this, right? So you are working at trying to balance being a mom, working, you know, being a provider in the home, and like you said, maybe even trying to, you know, be a teacher to your, and the principal, I think I heard you say. So there are
all of it.
Yeah, there are a lot of things.
Everything.
And I'm a student at the same time. Dr. G is one of my professors.
Wow.
So it's a lot. It is
right,
a lot.
Right.
I want to hear from Joan. Let's hear from a teacher's perspective now.
Yeah, so Joan, please tell us how this is for you as a teacher. And one of the things that I also want to know is how this is stretching you as a teacher, because this is not, again, how we do school normally, right? So yeah, let us know, how is this impacting you?
Well, as I look at my day, my general day, working with my students, we start off at 8:15 in the morning. And when they come on, we begin our engagement piece immediately. So they come on, we ask them to start writing. We have music, engage in music, which, by the way, says, I love school. So we try to pump them up with, I love school, why I love school, you know. And just every morning we do that song and just try to give them that piece to tell them we're gonna have a fun day. We do a little movement activity, just getting them involved, because for our group, for the group that I work with early childhood, it's really important to keep them engaged and keeping them wanting to come back next day. Because, you know, they can get up and cry and say, Mommy, I don't feel well this morning. And Mommy would say, okay, you can rest out. You know, you don't feel well. So we do things that make them want to say, I am coming back. You know, I want to come back. I want to come tomorrow, see you tomorrow at the end of the day. So we do a lot of movement. We do a lot of activities where they can, we have activities that are online, because everything is online, of course, but it becomes live when they do it. So we do activities that they have a whiteboard of their own, so they can be writing on the whiteboard or erasing on the whiteboard with instructions. So I can see what they're doing. They can see when I model what to do. We have other documents that are PDF, but there are platforms now that would make a PDF document live. So we use those to help them try to put a lot of color When we give them activities to do, we give them a lot of descriptive words that would help them to say, you know, to want to do it. So we say, you're a scientist, and scientists explore and they discover. So we use words that would pull them in and make them want to, you know, make them want to be part of whatever they're doing. It's been a challenge. We have had to learn many ways to do things differently, but again, still keep them, again, wanting to come back. Learning how to work with Microsoft Teams, we made a lot of cue cards for them. So when I wanted them to put on their microphone, I have a card that I would say, mic's on, or mic's off, or camera's on, or use your chat box. Look in the chat box, there's the link, click on the link, go. So we had just teaching them, and of course teaching the parents too, because some of the parents are just there with them also helping, because of course they're young ones. So just teaching everyone how to use the platforms, how to send work in, how to, you know, take a picture, send a picture in. It's just been a whole lot of learning for children and for us, but it's been a good experience. There are days when I kind of live for Fridays, actually. I do. I live for Fridays.
I know.
Because that's downtime. And, you know, when I shut it down on Friday evening, I shut it down on Friday evening, and I wouldn't pick it up again until Saturday evening, maybe, or maybe Sunday. Mm-hmm. But it's good. It's good.
Would you say
I love it at the end of the day when my kids say, bye, love you, see you. It's fun to just hear that from them. So I know they're coming back tomorrow.
Joan, let me ask you a question. Could you, for our viewers, tell us what are some of because people listening to this would want to get some resources. What are some of the programs that you use? No, we're not promoting any program, but you're just sharing with the audience. What are some of the programs you use with that age group? Like, for example, what is the PDF app that you guys use to, you know, so those kinds of things, if you can share it with us.
Sure. One of the platforms that we use that would make a PDF document live is called Class Dojo. And this platform is one of those that it's like texting between class teacher and parent. So when I put any documents on Class Dojo, it comes live on the parent's phone immediately. Mm. They can see it, and the students can work with it immediately as soon as I put it on. Mm-hmm. We also have those that are child friendly. We have ABC, we have Brain Pop, we have Pebble Go, and these are platforms that are interactive. We have PBS Kids. We have Kids Bop that gets kids moving and jumping and, you know, getting all that energy and the wiggles and the sleepiness out. And so those are just some of those that we use every day. Just, you know, iExcel, iReady, different, and those are all interactive. They can go online and they can do things, and then some of them track them and also level them and push them up or down, you know, and then we can see everything that they do. If they spend 5 minutes online, we know. If they spend 10 minutes, if they're struggling with a question, it gives us that. So those platforms are geared to helping us. And so we encourage them to use it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. We have 1 minute. So I think what I would like to come back and talk about is describe the kinds of challenges that you have with different relationships. Okay, the emphasis is on relationships. What are some of the challenges you have with some of the relationships during this COVID period? I remember earlier Gigi talked about how, you know, there were some tensions and different, having to navigate all the different voices that are giving you information, and how it put some strain on different relationships. So I think Vanessa is telling us we have a few seconds left, but that's what I want us to talk about when we come back. so that we get into, we've set the stage, we talked about the settings and the challenges in a general sense. When we come back, we need to talk about more specifically what challenges we experience in specific relationships, whether it's a relationship with your husband or spouse, whatever that spouse is, or significant other, with challenges in relationships with your children, with the parents and your students, the community. Let's talk about that when we get back.
Our world today is experiencing an intersection of crisis. The COVID-19 global pandemic and the systemic racism which has led to racial unrest in the USA. These crises are affecting every aspect of our lives, exposing us to triggering events that leaves us feeling a wide range of emotions, like being scared, angry, anxious, fearful, hopeless, or even helpless. At Listening Oasis Wellness Space, our mission is to help individuals achieve and maintain social emotional wellness. Our program is free and confidential for anyone who finds themselves or their loved ones worried about COVID-19 and the racial unrest and its social, emotional, psychological, and behavioral consequences. If you are experiencing any of these emotions and it's getting in the way of you living your best life, or you just need someone to talk to, kindly call us at 833-427-5697 for those of you who live in the USA. For those outside of the United States, we have a call text line that is encrypted. Leave your contact details and a wellness champion will be available to listen to you via our text chat line. We at the Listening Oasis are here to walk beside you on your unique journey.
Welcome back to the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. So we've been having a lot of good information that has come from like our guest today, what this experience has been like for them as parents and as teachers and students themselves, and trying to balance all of this, working and still being parents and and trying to help their children when it comes to school. And so when we left off, Yvonne was asking that you all share with us what this has been like in terms of your relationships, how this has been impacting your relationships. And so talk to us. Let us know, how has this impacted your relationships? Again, Gigi, I know that she had mentioned that there were some, maybe you didn't feel quite supported, or at least, from the beginning when it came to the decisions that you made to have your children go to schools. So.
Yes, ma'am. I did not feel much support from my close-knit circle, I guess. When I decided that the girls could go back, like I said, unfortunately for the girls, it only lasted 4 days. But even so the girls are back, and it was just very hard with them, because they only got to see friends for 4 days. And like my older one, she got a little depressed. She says she's not depressed, but to get her out of bed and get her into the classroom where she's supposed to be has been at times a challenge. And at the beginning, defying mommy. I think at the beginning was trying to see how far mommy's gonna take it or allow her, because I know she was so angry. Then it's the teachers themselves, and I give it up for those teachers. I'm sure they must be having, if each kid has 25 children, each class has 25 children, and half of them are online and half of them are in front of you. I don't want that job. It must be, the utmost respect I give to them. But the reality is, they themselves, like, for example, I was saying that tomorrow's the last day of the 9 weeks. Danielle has like 10 different assignments that grades are not up. dude, tomorrow's the last day. Those grades should have been up last weekend. And I think they themselves feel overwhelmed, overly tired, just fed up, like Abby was saying, all zoomed out. I am sure they are. Um, and so that kind of puts a strain in that relationship. And I don't want to send an email or a nasty email or anything to a teacher, especially in these times, but, and I haven't, but tomorrow's Friday. So like I told Danielle, I was like, your science teacher and your band teacher have until tomorrow. I'm going to see what they do tonight because they have until tomorrow before I send the email. Again, it's the last day of the quarter, Then between me and my husband, things are good. I mean, we do support each other. I mean, he is my rock. He really is. And I am so thankful for him. He works. For a while though, he was home. He was furloughed. He was furloughed for 2.5 months. And I don't know. I can tell you a lot then.
It sounds like you want to say something about that, both of you being in the same space for a period of time.
Oh my God, I could not wait till he go back to
so that's real. That's real, right? That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the realness of the strain with your kids and
your husband at home, and you got to cook 3 meals a day, and you got
exactly. So those are the kinds of ways that this whole COVID has impacted your relationships in your home setting, and even with your friends not feeling so there's not feeling as supported, tension between you and the girls. Then, like Abby said earlier, she's used to working from home, but in quiet. You're used to being at home, but
without him.
Exactly. And that requires an adjustment. So thank you for sharing that. Who else wants to tell us? Georges, tell us about relationships and the impacts that COVID is having on the relationships. You can talk about the community because you want to share about the community, but let's focus on the relationships in the community and how that has been impacted.
Well, for me, I see several different sides of this. So as an individual who was not working for a while, it was a strain on me because I'm so used to being the alpha male, taking care of everything, but now I am at home and I'm sidelined. And for a while, it messed with me mentally and emotionally. And my wife saw it and she was like, you don't know how to not work. Like, even you taking this little break, like, don't look at the negative side, the fact that you're not working. Look at the positive side of the fact that we have enough that we'll be able to survive for a while, but we're here together and we could use this a time to just reconnect. And in my mind, I just kept on thinking, our bills don't care about if we reconnect or not. But I had to stop and recognize that, okay, I can't just be selfish about this. I have to really sit and focus on how do I become a better husband? How do I become more attentive? Because we found out a couple of months ago that we're expecting. So now I have a child on the way. So then my mind continues to grow and starts to worry. But when I stopped and I said, let me put it all in God's hands. When I tell you, like, all of the burdens just left, and he continued to wow and amaze us here and there. And it made my relationship with God much more tighter, my relationship with my wife much tighter, when I stopped focusing on the stuff that I can't control and I started focusing on the things that I can control. When I started working at the school, I started noticing there's a lot of teachers who are dealing with several challenges. Now, I used to watch on television where teachers would be like, parents, can you please wear some clothes when you're coming across the screen? Please, we do not want to see anything inappropriate behind our kids. And I started thinking, man, this has to be a joke. And then when I started working in the school system, I started realizing, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is real. Like, there's parents who really are conflicted because they're like, I'm used to being at home by myself. This is my time to unwind. This is my time to just be free. And now the camera's on for 8 hours. And I don't know when you guys take a break. I don't know when you guys stop taking breaks. So then if I do something, I have to be cognizant of the fact that my child is right there and the rest of the kids are watching. So to see that relationship with some of the parents and the kids, that helped me to understand that, okay, for the parents, they're struggling a lot as well. And we have to find a way to kind of like help them deal with that. So I know the school system that I'm working with, we really focused on trying to take away some of the barriers. So if we know that you need internet and you don't have the funds for it, they started supplying internet services for some of the parents to make sure that they have access. For some of the kids who didn't have desks, one principal said, let me send desks to your house to make sure that you have a section in your house that can help you deal with some of these things. And that's going back to the relationship between the school and the kids, because these kids still need to know that even though we're social distancing and we're trying to keep each other safe, you have to also remember that we at the school, we love you and we want you to be okay. So whichever way we can help you know that we're still thinking about you and we still want you to succeed, let's do that. And that was great to see, because now for me, it helped me to see that there's way more things that we can do to kind of help continue to build that relationship between the kids and the teachers, between the parents and the teachers and the faculty, to make sure that everyone's on the same page, to know that this is a challenging situation and we're all trying to get through this together. And the more we did that, the more I feel like we're starting to see some headway.
Awesome. So there was a movement toward the homeschool community relationship, is what you saying.
We went from focusing on just schoolwork, we went to focusing on the students and families.
Right. So the families, the families, i.e. home, the school, and the community, and how working together is critical for the success of the student.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason we continue to emphasize on families is because if the family is not successful, then the kids won't be successful.
Right, because the kids are part of the family.
Bam.
There you go. So I mean, it just you can't separate those things. I saw when you were talking, Wallace was giving some high fives and thumbs up. Wallace, what is it that resonated with you when Georges was speaking?
When he said about the man supposed to be, doing the head part of the household. Mm-hmm. And we can't think right, because we think in months down. I'm looking 6 months down the road, and I'm thinking what can happen within that 6 months. But the thing is, like he said, I can't control it. I have to trust my Abba Father. I have to trust God for everything. But sometimes you get stuck, because from going to work every day, making sure the family have more than what they need. Mm-hmm. That's our job. And when he said that, that's how we are programmed to go to work. Work. We used to working, and I'm gonna just share this. From 2005, when I started doing medical records, every time I worked with them for 17 years. When I left there, I put in my notice. The next Monday after that Friday, I started another job, worked straight through for years. When I left that job, put my notice in, that Friday, that Monday, I went straight back to work. So we are programmed, and it's hard for us to be unprogrammed. It's so, like he said, we have to turn to our Savior.
Yeah.
Put it in his hand.
Yeah.
So you recognize the stories in your head. You recognize that the things that you are hearing in your head are some things that you really can't do anything about. Mm-hmm. Once you can admit to that, you can acknowledge that, then perhaps you're opening the door for some peace of mind to come in. And I believe I heard both of you talk about coming to that recognition because you're programmed to provide.
Yes.
And that's what you know as men in your family and
Yes.
from history.
And
If I'm
again,
being completely honest, I don't care how many therapeutic knowledge I have, all of the skills and traits that I've been able to teach other people. When you're looking at your family and you're trying to make sure that we are okay, all of that goes out the window and survival kicks in.
Yes.
And that's why I started raising my hands too, because I understand where the brother comes from.
Yes.
This is my first, last time being a husband, and I do not want to fail my family.
Boom, yeah. That's it.
And I saw Ebony. Ebony, did I see you raising your hands?
I'm a single mom. So when the guys, and I have 8 brothers, so I come from a military family. So being stuck at home with men, that's why I fell out laughing when Gigi said what she said. We be so ready for them to go. Like, what do you need from me to get you out the door? And these are my brothers, and I love them to pieces. However, I'm a single mom, and so that is one of the things that my daughter said to me a couple of weeks ago, and it literally stopped me in my tracks. She goes, "You're so calm and you're so patient with your clients. Then when I have a question, it's like you're chewing my head off." And I went in my room and I cried. I was devastated. But Georgia said something. All of these skills, by the time I am powering down and I'm trying to get into mommy mode or trying to transition smoothly between those roles, sometimes I have to remind myself, if you heard someone else respond that way, how would you feel? And my daughter, her teachers tease me all the time. One of the teachers goes, "What do you do for a living?" Because no 11-year-old should use this language. She told her teacher, she goes, "Ma'am, that was very damaging what you said, and I didn't really appreciate it." And the teacher told somebody to shut up. Well, that's not something that we use at home. I grew up in a very turbulent situation, which is what drove me into psychology and crisis and trauma therapy. So a lot of those things I just don't do at home. I don't care how upset I am. We're going to go take a break. We're going to do all these things. That particular day, I was over it. And I can almost remember what it was. And I was just like, "Well, what do you think?" She's like, "Whoa, you were just so patient." And she like killed me with kindness, y'all. And I'm a tough cookie. I fell apart. Also relationships. So the husbands have spoken. I was supposed to start dating this year. Do you know how impossible it is to date in a pandemic? So now I'm like trying to be Wonder Woman with all these arms moving. And I'm just like, yeah, we got to put that off until 2021, 22, because going at this rate, we looking more like 2022. As online, I don't, it doesn't quite resonate the same with me. So yeah, it has been challenging. It's just trying to find bandwidth, because even although I have been employed the entire time, my hours dropped significantly. So I'm not seeing as many people. A lot of people are using more of the 1-800 things as opposed to a person. So my clientele, my income dropped significantly. And so trying to keep face while still being present and active in everything it has been like that resonated me very much so with the gentleman we're saying, because you're trying to make sure that you're okay while having your hands tied behind your back. And that mentally is very taxing. So before I had what I had, I was homeless. So in my mind, I'm just like, I can't end up back in this space, and I have other responsibilities. So my therapist and I have had more sessions, than we have had in a long time.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing, and I saw what Vanessa said is about 30 seconds. So what I'm hearing, and I'm going to sum this up here in a few seconds. They're the interpersonal relationships, right? Where we have relationships with other people, whether it's at a school or your siblings or your spouse or your, or the community. And those we've talked about those in terms of the challenges that come with that, not feeling supported, not feeling heard, having expectations that are not being met, using therapy, be a therapist more than, also losing the whole, income and not having those relationships. But then there is, on the other hand, there's the intrapersonal relationship, right? How are you relating to yourself? And what I'm hearing from everybody so far is we are all feeling a sense of, Abby said, I can't date. I'm losing my connection, right?
Real thing, Abby.
Yeah, right. Losing the connection in terms of your social emotional balance on the inside. You're feeling lost. You're feeling out of sorts because you've always worked. Now you're not working. You don't feel like you're providing for your family. All of those are intrapersonal thoughts that lead to interactions, that lead to a certain mindset. The mindset is, oh my goodness, I'm not being a full man, or I'm not being a full provider, or I'm not being true to who I am as a therapist, because, or I'm not being a good mom because I screamed at my child, or I'm not providing, or I want my husband to get a job and leave, go outside, find, do something.
Chop some wood.
Chop some wood. And so we looked at, in you guys sharing your stories, we looked at intrapersonal, which is what we just talked about. And we also looked at interpersonal, imbalance, and balance. And so we looked at it from community perspective. We looked at it from family perspective. We looked at it from self perspective. We looked at it from school perspective. And so we will end this segment, and then we will talk about what we're going to segue into for our final segment.
Our world today is experiencing an intersection of crisis. The COVID-19 global pandemic and the systemic racism which has led to racial unrest in the USA. These crises are affecting every aspect of our lives, exposing us to triggering events that leaves us feeling a wide range of emotions, like being scared, angry, anxious, fearful, hopeless, or even helpless. At Listening Oasis Wellness Space, our mission is to help individuals achieve and maintain social emotional wellness. Our program is free and confidential for anyone who finds themselves or their loved ones worried about COVID-19 and the racial unrest and its social, emotional, psychological, and behavioral consequences. If you are experiencing any of these emotions and it's getting in the way of you living your best life, or you just need someone to talk to, kindly call us at 833-427-5697 for those of you who live in the USA. For those outside of the United States, we have a call text line that is encrypted. Leave your contact details and a wellness champion will be available to listen to you via our text chat line. We at the Listening Oasis are here to walk beside you on your unique journey.
Welcome back to the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast.
Okay. Yeah. So Yvonne, when we were leaving, when we left off at the last segment, you were talking about interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships. Mm-hmm. And so we've had, like our guests talk about, like how they have been personally impacted, their feelings. And so, what tips can you give to help them like manage, these relationships that they're having?
Right. So yes. So we talked about, we were able, by you telling your stories and your experiences, you were recognizing the thoughts and the interactions and your mindsets and the emotions as they related to your interpersonal relationships and your intrapersonal relationships. So that's what we did. We recognized, we understood meaning we dug a little deeper into some of those relationships, whether it was intra or inter. We talked about, we know is the COVID. We know that the types of technology is driving us crazy. We know the extent of it is just too much. We know, Pamela talked about them going through that process of realizing her daughter needed to be in the classroom. And so digging deeper, we did that. Now we're going to talk about managing. So we talked about recognizing our time, our thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions. And we talked about understanding our time, thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions as it relates to relationships at home, school, and in the community, work, and in the community. And we also talked about intrapersonal, how our thoughts, our interactions, mindsets, and emotions have been impacting us internally, right? How do we now manage all of this? It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't have the answer. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know the answer. The answer is within yourselves, within your own spaces. Wallace and Georges talked about they have to lean on God. That's one way people manage. Abby, you went into the room and you cried. That's another way to manage. So that's what I'm saying. There's no answer that's outside. We have the answers within our spaces. We look at it from a strengths-based approach. We just help you shine a light on that. So part of managing is crying. Part of managing, Gigi, is, maybe getting a margarita. Not too many though. Okay, not too many. Joan, Karen, you can't wait for Fridays because then it's your downtime and you don't get back. So you check out to take care of the intrapersonal. Okay. Those are some of the ways you manage. And what I would encourage people to do is start coming up with new ways. Incorporating, don't be afraid to try new ways to re-equip and re-educate and re-empower yourselves in this new season of COVID. What can you do for yourself that you've never done before? What are some things you would want to try? Maybe go for a walk. We could still do that. What are some things that you guys think you can do, you can add to what you've already been doing? What are some things you want to, do differently? Ways that you want to think differently, right? So Georges and Wallace and Abby, you may want to start thinking, rethinking what it means to be a provider. So that so rethinking that worldview, that lens that you look at a provider from. So some of the ways to manage is reconceptualizing, envisioning what that means. Okay, that's one, and that's another one that you can start doing. Is there a project? Is there something you can do as a family? Is there something, what can you do for yourself? Maybe at a certain time of the day, you just say, you know what, when you're scheduling, especially those who are working for themselves, take a break. take a break where there is like, I am not good. I'm blocking this time out. So when you're scheduling stuff, say to yourself, I am scheduling an hour with no Zoom, no no Moom. You understand what I'm saying, Geneva?
Yeah, so am I understanding you to say, Dr. Larian, that it's okay for us to begin to create our own norms?
Yes.
That it's okay to break away from, okay, the rigidity of what was known as the norm.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
have to work during this block of time.
Absolutely. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to reframe and reconceptualize what life is.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to do it. Everything else is reconceptualizing. School is reconceptualizing. Work is Why am I not reconceptualizing what is good for me?
And to not wait to be told, because we are the captains of our own ship.
That's it.
But we don't have to wait to be told how to do, when to do, what to do. We know what to do.
We do. But because we have been socially conditioned, right? We have been socially conditioned to believe that X is supposed to follow Y, and and Z is supposed to follow what's X, Y, Z, Y, right? And so we have to start changing the mindset, changing the thoughts,
the stories in our head, right?
The stories in our head, and it has to be done in a conscious way. And so this kind of conversation is why we need these kinds of conversations to help people start seeing, you don't have to go all over the place to find stuff. It's right in your hand. It's right in front of you.
And you don't need somebody else's permission to do that.
Yeah,
this is your life.
Yeah.
And you get to decide how you want it to look.
You are the gardener. You are the gardener for your garden. Your mind is your garden. You get to choose what you want weeds to grow in and weeds to grow out. You get to decide what type of mulch you want to put, what type of seeds you want to plant, what kind of watering cans you want to use to water your seeds, what type of, you got this. And so you have to start managing. It starts in the mind.
Here's the thing with that, though. This is all coming from a healthy point of view. So what we have not addressed for people like in my demographic, the people that I work with, and even some of the things I've had to tell myself, was George's hit on it. The story that I'm telling myself. What we have not put into context is during a pandemic, we're isolated. So all of those narratives that you were told, no matter how erroneous that they are, a lot of us have made lives and careers around certain narratives. So we work because we were abandoned, and that was where we found our identity and we found affirmation. We are busy because if we sit still, then now I have to think about the traumas and the things that I've lived through and or are living in. We have to consider that work for a lot of people, where's their place of peace?
Right.
So now they're home in this cantankerous situation without tools, without resources, you know. And so while it's good and easy to say you are now in control, for some people that's the worst place to be in without someone to help navigate them. So that has been one of the biggest things is how are you mentally with all of this? Because if you put that's one of the things why, you know, solitary is so dangerous, because if you leave someone to their own devices and their own thoughts, unsupervised, without assistance on working through those things, now, you know, we have people, our suicide rate has went up dramatically. 10-year-olds, I have an 11-year-old, 10-year-olds have the #1 suicide rate. That terrifies me as a mom, as a person who does trauma advocacy work, you know, because we are not dealing with mental health. habits are good, patterns are good, but now you have all of this time to look at your malfunctions. You have all this time to live in this dysfunction, a lot of times without credible and healthy places to plug into or outlets. I know for me, the struggle has been, I hear traumatic stories all day. I am dealing with people at their worst all day. I have my own things. I have my own child, which I'm trying to navigate through. That outlet piece of, you know, phone conversations only go so far. Zoom meetings, Zoom wine and dine. You know, we get creative, we do it all, you know, but finding that outlet sometimes outside of yourself in a healthy patch or in a healthy field to be able to kind of rejuvenize and re-strategize.
Yeah, and that is absolutely correct. And that's why GC Scored has the Listening Oasis Wellness Space, where we provide individuals, trained wellness champions, to help all individuals through this COVID-19 and the civil unrest and the political climate. We are trained we have trained wellness champions who people can just listen to, and also who you can call and you will be listened to, but you'll also be given these strategies, the RUMERTIME process, to help you in your quiet moments where all you are having that's coming at you is your traumatic stories, the abusive situations. Now, if you're in abusive situations, there are other places that you need to, you know, to seek help from. And those are some of the things that we can give to individuals, right? But in the midst of hearing your own voices and your own stories, it is important. Part of why people continue to feel so deeply overwhelmed is because they don't have a strategy on how to navigate themselves through those stories, because it's all coming at you and it's overwhelming. It's like a riptide. You ever got caught up in a riptide and you just getting swirled around and you don't know, you can't come up for air. But if you know how to fight a riptide, you survive it. And the RUMERTIME process, which we were working on just now, is one such strategy that can help individuals in the midst of their trauma stories, in this isolation, in this quarantine time, can help them to start effectively navigating themselves and their way out of. I'm not saying this is a silver bullet that's going to cure it, but it's a tool that when used, and anybody can learn to use this, to help you come out of that bombardment of those trauma stories.
And the one thing about that tool, the RUMERTIME process that Dr. Laria is referring to, is, you know, it's not set aside for certain people to use. It's for any and everybody to use as a prevention and an intervention strategy. So it's not a tool to be used in an emergent situation. You may need to call 911.
Exactly.
If you're in the midst of a crisis of violence or a crisis trauma or trauma crises. You know, but once a situation is stabilized, it is an excellent tool for to be used by anyone. I would even suggest that you recommend that to the individuals you work with as an intervention strategy to help them learn to recognize that what their thoughts really are. People talk about what they feel. You know, I feel. But where do those feelings come from? We have to learn how to dig deeper, you know, as you learn more about RUMERTIME, and you will, because it's part of a course that you will be taking with me. But as you learn more about the RUMERTIME process, you will you will recognize the depth, the height, the width of it all in terms of problem solving, because it is an intervention and a problem solving strategy that people can use to start recognizing first. You know, if a person cannot or are not able to acknowledge or admit that a situation exists, then it's hard to go to the next step, because that's the first thing you need to do, is to be able to recognize that. But you need to be in a place where you're ready to begin that kind of work. And like I said, it's not a tool to be used in a crisis situation, but definitely one for prevention and intervention moving forward.
I just want to jump in just a little bit, Evie, because I think for people who are just listening, or who, you know, will be viewing this, they're probably looking for something like a quick fix, like right now. Like, what can I do to, you know, to help me through this time, right? Because you're right, this is a very real thing. People are isolated and they feel very depressed. And so one of the things that I heard you say earlier was that you have had many conversations with your therapist. So you are in a different place. And there are not a lot of people who are able or have the financial means to have a therapist. And that is where this listening oasis wellness space does come in. And so as part of the tool that Yvonne and Geneva are talking about in terms of this RUMERTIME process, it's about like reflecting. So why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? What is going on in my life that is causing me to feel this way? And this means like this is going to take some effort on their part, right? And then understanding why I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling this way because I'm lonely, I'm isolated, I'm starting to feel depressed. I don't have anybody to talk to. I need somebody or something, right? So it's about understanding where you are and what you are feeling. And then being able to manage that, like what we talked about tonight. So what are the things that I need to do? So if I realize that I'm feeling alone, if I you know, am starting to feel depressed, what do I need to do in order to deal with that? I don't like feeling this way. And, you know, and a lot of people are in that same space, right? They don't know where to turn. But that, what Yvonne said earlier, is like, we do have those answers inside of us. And a lot of times what it takes is for us to be still. It takes us to sit still in that feeling so that we know what we, you know, so that we start to understand, okay, maybe I cannot dig my way out of this by myself and I need some help. So where can I go to get some help? And then managing, expressing, that's where you talk to people. That's where this listening oasis wellness space comes in. You talk to people in the same way that you have an outlet, you know, where you can go and talk to your therapist. They also are able to talk to people, and this is free. So this is not a barrier, right? Finances is not a barrier for that. And so you're right, people have had to learn to be very creative during this time, because the truth of it is that, I mean, we are all in this, right? And we've all had to try to figure out ways to not feel so depressed, right? And some people don't have, you know, are not fortunate enough that they have friends that they can talk to, you know. And so again, that is why I'm saying too, it is really going to take some effort, you know, by that individual, that person. And where they feel that they cannot, there are other people there that can help walk with them through this. So like Yvonne said, you know, it's going to be different for everybody. You know, thankfully, I was going to say, thankfully, I am a mom, but my son is now an adult, and I don't have the same types of issues like what we talked about, you know, with having children in school. I don't have that issue, but, you know, I deal with some of the same things that you are talking about, like trying to date now during this time. Like, everybody's in the house, you know, like, what do you do? You know, that is real, you know. But sometimes what still works is when I'm going out to the store, you know, you might meet somebody there, you know, you just never know. Hey, you know, you just never know. But like I said, you have to be open and you have to be honest about where you are and how you feel and what you need.
Yeah.
One of the things that's going to require is breaking. We have to break the norm that's here first. Because Wallace mentioned earlier about being programmed to be a provider as the man of the house. We all have been programmed to some degree to do something a certain way. So now we are challenged to undo, redo. I believe Yvonne mentioned reconceptualize the way we think. You know, the decisions we make, the you know, the things we believe. It's a reconceptualization time. So because we've been programmed, we gotta change the script.
Yeah, and embrace having to, don't fight it, because it's in the fighting it and the resisting of it we have these breakdowns and we feel overwhelmed. You have to accept where you are, accept what it is, and say, okay, you know, here I am. You know, and James 1 says, count it all joy. Count it all joy, because it's an opportunity to build and to reconstruct and reconceptualize and re-educate and re-equip and re-empower yourselves.
And that's the message we need to share with everybody, the people we live with, our homes, our clients, whomever. We need to paint the picture of this being an opportunity this time. That it doesn't have to be humdrum.
Yeah, and I know people have died and family members, you know, Wallace lost his sister. So it may be hard to hear, you know, somebody may be saying, it's easy for you to say that because you blah, blah, blah.
I was thinking
this is not to minimize the grief.
I'm not minimizing the grief. I'm just saying, what did you say?
I know, I was agreeing with you. I was thinking that. And I think I'm the youngest one probably on this call. And so I think sometimes the age gap in the sense of overcoming and have living through things, for some of us, this is the worst thing that has ever happened. So we don't have that history to pull from to go, this is going to be okay. You know, I talk people my age, I'm 35. And so a lot of times the stigma still of saying, hey, go and talk to someone is still very significant, because if we talk to our parents or if we talk to aunts and uncles, you know, depending on the culture they grew up in, you don't talk to people about your problems, you pray about them. So, you know, that is a very real thing. That's, you know, of still having a place. So I'm really excited about the Listening Oasis, because that is something that, you know, I can share amongst my peers and my age group that, hey, because we know the speech that you're going to get, save yourself and just call these people to, you know, be able to get that support and assistance. And I think sometimes we forget the age gap, you know, so that doesn't have the same appreciation for mental health. This is, you know, during a time like now, you guys should have no free lines available. But we still have that huge stigma, you know, to pray instead of talking to someone.
And that's why we don't use mental health language. And also for the age difference, we have a text chat line, right? So those who don't want to talk or Zoom, the younger generation, they can text us, right? Yes, they can text and they can chat online. All of it is free. It's all free.
Yeah.
And so we've taken into consideration all of those things. But again, you know, this is what this is one of the platforms in which we want to be able to destigmatize and demystify the need for social emotional wellness in every setting. That all of us, it's like the air we breathe, and we need it for relationships. As air is to life, so are social emotional skills to relationships. It is like the air we breathe. This is not about somebody having depression or anxiety, or you have a story, and there's a lot of stuff that influences that story. That's it. There's no pathology in that. There's no shame in that. Okay, there's none. It is just a story, and your story has different colors and different places that you have to go, and you've gone. And what we do with the RUMERTIME process is help you have something to hang your story on as you journey through this life. That's it. That's it. And that's all I got to say.
And that's a good place to wrap this baby up.
There you go.
All right. We've
Everyone.
gone way over time for our guest. I feel so badly for our guest.
And then I see George's hands raised.
George, we can't hear you.
I said the last comment I wanted to say just for myself is the one thing that helped me a lot was using the RUMERTIME process in terms of acknowledging where I'm at in the moment. Like, to realize that, okay, this is really something I'll put it like this. A rose has thorns, and it has a part that we always love to look at because it's so beautiful. I don't want to focus so much on the thorns that I forget the beauty of the rose. And I feel like I spent so much time focused on the thorns and the stuff that I can't control that I didn't realize that I could put myself in a better place by just focusing on the things that I can enjoy. And once I've gotten to that place when I can sit back and enjoy the time that I have with my family, enjoy the times where I could just feel like there's nothing right now that I can put in front of me that's going to make me have mental turmoil. Let me just put everything on pause for a moment and just enjoy this time. Not focusing on the negativity, but just on the positive aspects. Because the negativity is going to be there forever. It's going to stay there. But at the same time, I mean, when I say that, I mean in life. But in every single moment, there's always some positive aspects that we can look at and we can learn from it and learn how to grow as people. So then when the trials and tribulations come, we don't just focus so much on that we can learn the lesson and enjoy the journey. And for me, it's helped me to have a better appreciation for family and a better appreciation for the journey of life.
All right. Well, that's your wrap up.
Your closing statement.
Closing statement. Okay. All right. Let's do the quick round robin. It has to be no more than 10 seconds.
30 seconds. Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, I was going to say 30. Okay.
What do you want the world to know? One burning thing you want the world to know.
Gigi, what do you want us to know?
Be patient and be kind with each other.
All right.
Nice.
Next. Pam.
So my best advice is that you know what's going to be best for yourself, your family, and your children.
That's right.
Don't let outside influences give you that negative drive. You do what you need to do for your family to be happy and healthy and, safe, basically.
All right. Yes.
Good. Abby J.
The one thing I share with everyone is maybe we're searching among the branches what really lies in the roots. So if something is really bothering you, think about it. find the original point of it, I think George has hit on it. Sit with it. Like, it is okay to sit with whatever it is that you're feeling and feel it and identify what's causing that in order to be able to seek help or to let it go and to learn the lesson that is there to teach you. Pain is there to tell you that something's wrong. Sit with it, overcome it, and move past it. Everything has an end date.
Okay, thank you. Joan.
My go-to is, and I would share it with anyone, just have that spiritual connection. Whatever you hold on to spiritually will get you through whatever comes your way. That's my source of strength. When I don't feel like moving, when I don't feel like doing, I reach in and pull from that source, and it gives me what I need to go on. So find that spiritual connection that you have and use it.
Okay, wonderful. Wallace.
This is something I learned when I came to volunteer with GC Score. Your emotions, feelings are not disorders. They are indicators. Just as smoke alarms let you know there's a fire, feelings, emotions let you know that something is happening. Call Listening Oasis now.
There you go. Great plug.
All right, yeah. Vanessa,
All right. Well, you know what? Like, oh my gosh, you guys, I mean, like, just words of wisdom from everybody. I mean, really, same thing. Gigi, I was going to say same thing. Be kind. You said be kind to others. I think also be kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, you are also going through this and trying to find your way as well. Be kind to yourself, so that you would give to somebody else, give it to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Geneva.
Okay, so, you know, we've all heard it said that it takes a village to raise a child. In keeping with that, in that village, let's remember that every piece matters. Mm-hmm. So it's not happenstance that's the title of our website, www.everypiecematters. That is, therein lies the village, and therein lies the help.
You have been listening to the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast, where the time is always RUMERTIME, where we equip you to solve your problems one rumor at a time, where we educate you to transform your stories one rumor at a time, and where we empower you to become your own life coach one rumor at a time. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.